Yeah, this weather just screams Monday, doesn't it? Hope you're having a happy one nonetheless. I am Dan O'Donnell, and hope you had a wonderful weekend. I personally spent mine collecting 2 of every animal, preparing for the next 40 days. Yeah, I'm going to be safe and dry while you suckers are looking at my ark with a whole lot of jealousy. Welcome to the Dan O'Donnell Show. I'm Dan. You want to join the program? I know you do, as we begin another week of broadcast excellence, or far more accurately stated, broadcast competence. 414-799-1130. That's our AccuNet Mortgage talk and text line. You can reach us toll free, 1-800-838-9476. Email me, dod@iheartmedia.com, at Dan O'Donnell Show on Twitter, facebook.com/Dan O'Donnell Show. And if you would like to see my rain-soaked face, you can do so watching the show live on YouTube. Just search for Dan O'Donnell Show. We're also streaming live on Twitter and Facebook. Basically, anywhere you can stream, we are streaming live. And we have got a jam-packed show for you today. But the big story, of course, is the rain. We had between 1 month and 2 months of rain fall on southeast Wisconsin in the better part of a day. In fact, in most areas, it's still at least drizzling. The rain is starting to move out, but upwards of 10 inches fell in Racine. Something like 8 inches. I think I saw the latest rain totals from our friends and partners at Fox 6 Weather. 8 inches in Waukesha, 7 inches or so in Pewaukee. It was an absolute downpour. There are about 9,000 We Energies customers without power right now. As of last check, there was a stretch of freeway in the Pewaukee area, I-94 East, that was shut down because of standing water. In the Highway T area, thank you for that, Dave. They actually had snowplows out on the freeway trying to clear all of the standing water. And I'm basically sort of sitting outside. We had my daughter's soccer tournament. The last day of it was canceled. So I was sort of like the proverbial kid who's sitting inside on a rainy day, just sort of staring out at the window, wishing he could play soccer. My younger son had to skip a soccer game as well. The fields were just waterlogged. And we actually went out to the field because they hadn't yet decided to cancel, and it was a giant puddle. So we have all the little girls there. They're getting ready to play, and this is just so typical kids. All of the parents are sort of huddled under the gazebo, the area where the tournament was sort of being organized, and all of the girls on my soccer team, it's my daughter's team, they're first and second and third graders now. They're all running around outside and going on the playground equipment in the pouring rain. So that's the difference between kids and the adults are shivering and sipping their coffee, saying, "There's no way I'm going outside." The kids are like, "Coach Dan, can we play anyway? We really want to play." Unfortunately, we couldn't. So yeah, it was a rainy day. And I went back home, and I'm thinking as I'm watching some of the coverage of the rainfall, and anytime you have any sort of weather event that's slightly out of the ordinary, what is the thing you watch for the media to blame it on? Of course, climate change. Now, I'll admit, I could not find a single local weathercaster, at least in any story that was posted online or in any of the coverage that I was sort of watching, the cut-ins during the NFL coverage on Fox 6 or CBS 58 or anything like that. But it took me a grand total of about 10 seconds to find a report from NBC News National. This is from almost exactly 1 month ago. That heavy rain in the western U.S., this was August 5th, is, of course, the result of climate change.
Late summer is traditionally flash flood season, but 2022's events are increasingly record setters.
Climate change is making it easier for the heaviest rains to become even heavier. And this summer is a good example of that trend, which has been playing out over decades.
More rain in a shorter time. Parts of Denver got more than 2 inches Sunday, much of it coming in just an hour.
All right, so that was NBC News early August. Heavy rains in the western part of the United States are due to climate change. You got that? I then found this story from almost exactly 1 week later that said drought in the eastern part of the United States was due to climate change. Also from NBC News.
These are not images from the desert Southwest. They're from Massachusetts. The new weekly drought monitor out today shows that more of the Northeast is now under extreme drought conditions.
It's going to affect water supplies and it's going to affect growing food. And both of those are critical to our economy. And it's going to mean that we can't keep living the way we do.
Experts say climate change is reaching unprecedented levels worldwide.
It's amazing. 1 week apart, same network. Western part of the United States has heavy rain when there's usually drought. And guess what? It's climate change. A week later, northeastern part of the United States normally has a decent amount of rain. And guess what? It's climate change. So I'm waiting for NBC News tonight to have the torrential downpour in southeast Wisconsin be the result of climate change. And then in a week when we're right back to the drought conditions that essentially gripped our area. Although I did notice a pattern. Have you noticed a pattern for pretty much the last week? The last month, every week. Tuesday through about Thursday are gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. Friday is usually pretty good. Then Saturday comes, or Sunday, torrential downpour. All the way back, I took a couple of days off in the beginning of August. We went to the Dells with my family. We, go to the Dells pretty often. We take, I'll take a couple of vacation days here or there in the summertime. And we went up Wednesday afternoon. Gorgeous. Thursday, gorgeous. By Friday, it had dropped to cloudy, rainy, and 55 degrees and stayed that way through the end of the weekend. And it seems like every weekend since. So I'm saying climate change. You know what else climate change causes? Christian Watson's inability to catch a football. Man, was that embarrassing. The guy's first snap as an NFL player, the Packers get smoked by the Minnesota Vikings, and that game was not close, and truthfully, it could have been about 41-7. That was just a poorly played game, but the very first snap of Christian Watson's NFL career, Aaron Rodgers puts an absolute dime right on his hands, goes right through him, and you could see Rodgers' frustration as it finally sinks in. Yeah, this is what the offense is going to look like without Davante Adams. I didn't appreciate the Fox broadcast constantly pouring salt in the wound, by the way, by giving an updated stat total from Davante Adams in Oakland and how he was single-handedly outperforming the entire Packers receiving corps. Truth be told, this wasn't a loss that you could pin totally on the receivers, although pray for me, folks. I did start Aaron Rodgers in fantasy. So, yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a long year. Yeah, I lost. And it was in the work league, Dave. I'm getting smoked by one of the 97.3 The Game producers, Hunter. Yeah, the one that filled in on this show when you were on vacation, Hunter, yeah, is one of the backup producers on the Dan O'Donnell Show, and he is absolutely killing me because I managed to have Aaron Rodgers, the Kansas City Chiefs kicker who got hurt like on the opening kickoff. And in another league, I've got Dak Prescott, who's out for about 5 weeks with a broken hand. And in another league, I've got the Niners running back, Eli Mitchell, who also got hurt. So within like the first quarter of the first game for 3 different teams, my fantasy team was all screwed up. Am I worried about the Packers? Absolutely not. I still think this is a very good team with a very good defense. I think what you've got to watch out for, though, as I said a couple of weeks ago when we were sort of previewing this season, the Packers are still the class of the division. I didn't think that the Vikings were going to be able to turn things around, but man, oh man, you talk about the difference that a superstar wide receiver can have. Justin Jefferson might actually be the best wide receiver in the NFL. Better than Adams, better than Cooper Kupp. If he plays against the Packers secondary, he will eclipse Jerry Rice's career totals this season. That's how good that guy is, and it is inexplicable to me that they did not have Jair Alexander shadowing him the entire game. I don't know if this was a game plan thing, but clearly that needs to be rethought. All right. Stick to the issues. We're tired of hearing about the Packers. Believe me, after that game, I am too. Yesterday, of course, was the 9/11 anniversary. It was the 21st anniversary of the day that changed America. It was also the 10th anniversary of something else. In America, and really as people, we're sort of focused on these even year anniversaries. The 20th anniversary was obviously a big deal of 9/11 last year. But it was the 10th anniversary of something. And I dare say you did not hear about it. In fact, as much as I'm plugged in and tuned into what's going on in the world around me, it actually took me until about midday yesterday to realize that it was the 10th anniversary of something. Do you know what it is? Dave says until I just mentioned it right now, he did not know about it. Now Dave knows. I'll bet you there's a significant portion of our listening audience that did not remember that it was the 10th anniversary of something until I just mentioned it right now, just like my producer Dave, who's also very plugged in and knows a lot about what's going on in the world around him. Why is that? Do you know what it is? Do you remember? Or, to borrow a popular phrase that we resurrect each September 11th, have you forgotten? Benghazi happened 10 years ago yesterday. The terror attack that actually killed the United States ambassador to Libya, it was not mentioned. I did a Google News search before the show. I waited deliberately until today, just in case any news websites or papers or TV networks would mention the Benghazi anniversary later in the day. I found one mention. Google News searches all news sites to find relevant results. I searched for Benghazi, which is obviously something that would lead to specific search results. One mention of the 10th anniversary of Benghazi. One. Can you guess what site? Not Newsmax. Although, in fairness, a lot of these news sites like Newsmax, Daily Wire, Breitbart, those aren't often included in Google News searches. In fact, Common Sense Central, my site, typically is not either. And this is, I believe, by design, so people aren't discovering conservative or alternative news sources. It was FoxNews.com. Unsurprisingly, FoxNews.com was the one major news site that actually included the Benghazi anniversary. It was the 10th anniversary of Benghazi. Did you know the Biden administration, the White House, did not put out a statement? 4 Americans were killed. This was a pre-planned terror attack, and the reason that it wasn't marked at all was obvious. Because it was one of the most significant failures of the Obama administration when Biden himself was vice president. And then Obama repeatedly lied about it to the American people. You might remember Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. Hillary Clinton, as we'll see, we've got a soundbite or two from Hillary on her appearance on CNN's State of the Union, was not asked on the 10th anniversary of Benghazi about her role in that attack. She did absolutely nothing. The Obama administration ignored calls for help. Remember, Hillary had that famous ad in 2008. There's a phone call at the White House. A phone is ringing. Who do you want answering the phone? And the implication was Hillary Clinton. Well, the phone was desperately ringing from that consulate in Benghazi, Libya. Hillary didn't pick up the phone. Biden didn't pick up the phone. Obama didn't pick up the phone. And Americans died in a terror attack that the Biden administration and, the Obama administration swore to us was not a terror attack. And of course, that 10th anniversary was not reflected on. There's a reason for that, folks. The most insidious form of media bias isn't the deliberate slanting of the news. It isn't even open advocacy in news reporting. It isn't the sort of thing that you'll see with respect to climate change reporting, like NBC News just flip-flopping on what exactly climate change causes. The answer is, of course, everything. Any sort of weather event is caused by climate change. It's known as selection bias. It's the sort of omission that actually shapes news coverage. There was no news coverage, literally zero news coverage yesterday of Benghazi. Not a single mention outside of Fox News. Not a single mention by the White House. Nobody wanted to draw attention to it. Folks, we're seeing the exact same thing play out with two of the most pressing, and I would argue the two most pressing issues facing the American people right now: inflation and illegal immigration. You can also throw in the sky-high crime rate. In Racine, there was a shooting at a high school football game on Friday night. There was yet another teenager murdered in Milwaukee over the weekend. But those stories get almost zero coverage. Now the focus, because of the media's selection bias, because of a deliberate attempt to shape news coverage and mold it around issues that Democrats feel are ones they can actually survive this midterm election on, i.e. Republicans are traitors and terrorists and enemies of the state, Donald Trump is a criminal. The actual issues: high gas prices, high prices for everything, dangerous neighborhoods that are becoming more dangerous by the day, and a border crisis that even liberal city mayors are acknowledging is decimating their ability to provide social services for their people. Those stories are getting all but ignored, and the reason for this is because Democrats understand, and their allies in the media understand, that if the issues that really impact Americans are actually covered, Democrats have no chance of winning. On the 9/11 anniversary, Biden and Democrats draw parallels, tragically, disgustingly, to Republicans. Dan O'Donnell here for my great friends at Mander Collision and Glass, which I've been recommending most highly for years because of their expertise, their professionalism, and above all, their customer service, which really sets them apart from pretty much every other body shop. But don't just take my word for it. Sarah says Mander was thorough, friendly, knowledgeable, and quick. Although you never want to have to use an auto body repair shop, I would absolutely recommend Mander. And whether it's body work, windshield repair, or car detailing, you'll get the same service Sarah got, guaranteed. You see, Mander is locally and family owned, so you're a person to them, not a number like you are to a national chain. And Mander now has 4 locations to serve you in Brookfield, Waukesha, Cedarburg, and Heartland. Start your repair today by visiting mandercollision.com and see why Mander truly is the best decision after a collision.
Democrat politicians are great at character assassination, but they're awful at governing and telling the truth. Mandela Barnes can't be honest with you because he supports all the policies causing inflation, record gas prices, rising crime, and a flood of illegal immigrants and deadly drugs. Voting for Mandela Barnes would be like hiring an arsonist to put out a fire. Please don't. I'm Ron Johnson, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ron Johnson for Senate, Inc.
The global economic group headed by China and Russia, called BRICS, is dedicated to challenging the dollar. This means the dollar will be further damaged, and along with it, the purchasing power of Americans. This is Stephen K. Bennett. I want to remind you that you can still protect your hard-earned savings from world events. How? By diversifying your 401k or IRA out of paper assets and into physical gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To claim your free info kit on gold IRAs, simply text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's critical you get this information before the dollar is further eroded and you lose even more of your hard-earned money. So text PROTECT to the number 989898. That's PROTECT to 989898 to get your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required. Take action today.
Imagine for a moment that this ad was bought autonomously. Welcome to the new open web, where Viant is combining AI and human insight to create autonomous media buying that accelerates your return on ad spend. And using Viant's DSP Adelphic, you can now measure your media offline and online to see the full impact of your media spend, so you can spend more time on podcasts. Viant, built for the new open web. Built for now. Visit ViantNow.com to learn more.
Now, back to the The Dan O'Donnell Show.
President Biden gave kind of a standard issue 9/11 speech. Over the past 21 years, we've had much the same traditions. At Ground Zero, the names of the 2,777 people who were killed on 9/11 are read. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, who is desperate to join the squad. She's not an official squad member, Democratic congressman from Washington State. She actually tweeted out her condolences for the 2,996 victims of 9/11. That's right. She included the 19 terrorists who took down those airliners. Oops. When this was pointed out to her, of course, she deleted the tweet. But we've got the wreath laying, and the president sometimes will go to Ground Zero. Most of the time, he'll speak at the Pentagon. You've got in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. It's the same thing. The thing I absolutely love the most is the tribute in light. One night a year, the Twin Tower lights go up, and it's just a beautiful sight. It's a tragic reminder of the darkness and devastation of that day, but also the light of the American spirit that rebuilt and recollected itself in the wake of unimaginable tragedy. So President Biden spoke at the Pentagon yesterday, and it was subtle, but you knew this was coming. He tied the 9/11 terror attack to January 6th and the, quote, threats to democracy from his MAGA Republican enemies.
It's not enough to gather and remember each September 11th, those we lost more than 2 decades ago, because on this day, it is not about the past, it's about the future. We have an obligation, a duty, a responsibility to defend, preserve, and protect our democracy. The very democracy that guarantees the rights of freedom that those terrorists of 9/11 sought to bury in the burning fire and smoke and ash.
Like I said, it was subtle, but who did Biden just say 2 weeks ago was the single greatest threat to democracy? Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans, right? This was a clear reference to democracy, the same sort of democracy that we swore to protect and uphold 21 years ago after the towers fell and after the Pentagon was attacked. That's under threat, not from terrorists from Al-Qaeda. Obviously not, because Biden a year ago gave them back Afghanistan and said that Al-Qaeda would not resurface. Meanwhile, we killed the leader of Al-Qaeda a couple of weeks ago on a balcony in the capital of Afghanistan, meaning that they have clearly moved right back in under the reconstituted Taliban government. But Democrats are now, and they spent the day tying the 9/11 terror attack to Republicans today. Hillary Clinton was on CNN's State of the Union, and even though it was the 10th anniversary of the Benghazi terror attack, apparently CNN's interviewer said, at this point, what difference does it make? Didn't ask Hillary a single question about that, but of course allowed Hillary to opine that, yes, January 6th and Republican actions today are very much like 9/11.
I think been reminded about how important it is to try to deal with extremism of any kind, especially when it uses violence to try to achieve political and ideological goals. So I'm one who thinks that there are lessons still to be learned from what happened to us on 9/11 that we should be very aware of during this time in our country and the world's history.
What's she talking about? Rather obviously, Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans. Over on CBS's Face the Nation, Senator Mark Warner of Virginia made it even more abundantly clear.
The stunning thing to me is here we are 20 years later, and the attack on the symbol of our democracy was not coming from terrorists, but it came from literally insurgents attacking the Capitol on January 6th.
There it is, the direct tie between 9/11 hijackers and January 6th. As if that wasn't clear enough, Dean Obeidallah, frequent contributor to the Unhinged Liberal of the Day segment on this program, and also a CNN contributor, Sirius XM radio host, 9/11. In the morning, as people were, one of my favorite traditions is Ari Fleischer, the White House press secretary from September of 2001 during the Bush administration. He will tweet out, at least he used to, he would tweet out a minute-by-minute remembrance of what was going on 9/11. A number of news outlets will do this. Sometimes you'll have the minute-by-minute coverage as it appeared on September 11th. But Dean Obeidallah, in the morning, was tweeting this. Take a moment and imagine if after 9/11, bin Laden were allowed to freely travel America, spewing lies in an effort to radicalize more people to commit violence in his name. Well, that is exactly what Donald Trump has been doing since January 6th. Time to arrest Trump. Folks, these aren't randos on Twitter. These are people in the media and at the highest levels of government who really do believe that January 6th is essentially akin to September 11th, when nearly 3,000 Americans died. They really do believe that the single greatest threat to the United States 21 years after 9/11 isn't radical Islamic jihad or Russia or anything like that. They really do believe that the single greatest threat to this country, to Western democracy itself, is you and people like you who don't vote the way they want you to vote. We'll get into a revealing interview with the Vice President Kamala Harris when the Dan O'Donnell Show continues. Hey, Dan O'Donnell for the Lynch family of dealerships. Lynch is looking to buy your used car now. Lynch will buy you out of your lease and will pay up to $2,500 over Kelley Blue Book value. Before you make your next car payment, before you make your next lease payment, stop by any of the Lynch family of dealerships in Kenosha, Burlington, Mukwonago, and West Bend, or go to shoplynch.com and click on the Sell Trade tab for an instant cash offer on your vehicle. All makes, all models, and remember, if you're over on your mileage, if you're afraid of excessive wear and tear, they'll purchase your leased vehicles and pay up to $2,500 more than Kelley Blue Book value. Even if you're not in the market to buy a car, Lynch is in the market to buy your car. Visit shoplynch.com. Hey, you're thinking about selling your home but not sure where you're going to move? If your home sells faster than you can find a new one? Hey, Sean Hannity here, and as an active investor, I know all about the stresses of selling a home so you can have the capital to buy your new home. There is a solution. I'm talking about Justin Hoffman of RE/MAX Realty Pros. Now, Justin spends thousands of dollars every month to attract thousands of buyers, which helps sell a home on average every 28 hours for up to $25,000 over the asking price. Now, you want to work with an agent that has helped thousands of families buy and sell and understands the market so that no seller has been left without a home. Now, don't let the best sellers market in decades pass you by. Make the smart move. Get the options to put the most money in your pocket. You can give Justin a call right now at 414-604-1454. Or just Google Team Hoffman and check out over 500 five-star reviews. Dan O'Donnell here for my friends at CertaPro Painters, who give you the power of pro, just like they gave me when they repainted my home's exterior. It looks like a brand new house, and I cannot recommend them highly enough for your home or business. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. CertaPro Painters, the power of pro. Schedule your free estimate now at CertaPro.com. That's Certa with a C, pro.com.
D&M and Carrier are excited to offer up to $1,025 in cool cash rebates on the top-rated Infinity furnaces and air conditioners, with options to help your home air quality, give you the best and easiest control with Wi-Fi, and much, much more. Don't wait to improve your comfort. These rebates start today and end November 19th. Call today, 414-281-5350, or visit us at dmheating.com.
D&M. At your service.
Turn to the experts, Carrier and D&M Heating.
Violent crime is on the rise across Wisconsin. Homicides up 70% from just 3 years ago. But if you think crime is bad now, Mandela Barnes will make things much worse if he gets to the Senate. Barnes supports eliminating cash bail even after the Waukesha Christmas parade attack. That lets dangerous criminals go free. But Mandela Barnes won't stop there. He supports amnesty and sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants and had worked for a radical group that supports defunding the police. And while Barnes insinuates that police officers are racist and white supremacists, he spent hundreds of thousands of your tax dollars on security for himself. Mandela Barnes, wrong on crime, dangerous for Wisconsin. Reject Mandela Barnes for U.S. Senate. Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.senateleadershipfund.org.
Jay Weber here. If you're someone who is experiencing shoulder, hip, or knee pain and a total joint replacement may be in your future, think Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. Find them at orthowisconsin.com. At Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin, their physicians are committed to providing the highest quality joint care and specialize in same-day total joint replacements at their own ambulatory surgery center in Pewaukee. You can find them at orthowisconsin.com. orthowisconsin.com. Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference.
Let's face it, food shortages are a real threat now. Supply chain breakdowns, inflation, fuel prices, global conflicts, fertilizer cutbacks, farmers being encouraged not to plant. The stage is set for the peanut butter to hit the fan. But for some reason, Americans are still in denial about food shortages. Listen, we don't take risks with other things in our lives, so why take risks with your food security? Those who know what's coming are using today to prepare. Millions of Americans have purchased Ready Hour emergency food from My Patriot Supply, the brand people look for when they're ready for real preparedness. MyPatriotSupply.com is America's largest preparedness company. Get stocked up on emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage to get you through tough times ahead. Your other choice is to stand in government food lines, hoping for a handout. As we both know, that's not an option. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com right now. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Hi, it's John Reitz from Great Midwest Bank, and for most all of us, here's the reality. Life happens, but when those moments occur, two words come to mind: common sense. For nearly 90 years, Great Midwest Bank has made the home buying, building, renovation, and refinancing process straightforward, while too many others overthink and overdo. Our portfolio loans are GMB's not-so-best-kept secret. Apply online at greatmidwestbank.com. Great Midwest Bank, your simply local equal housing lender.
Opinion, emotion, passion. This is News Talk 1130 WISN.
From falling down.
Reach Dan anytime on the AccuNet Mortgage Talk and Text line at 414-799-1130. Now, back to the Dan O'Donnell Show.
You can't stop the tears from falling down.
Texter on the AccuNet Mortgage Talk and Text line makes a great point. For 21 years now, we have had to take off our shoes at airports. At what point do you think the terrorists have abandoned their plans to, like Richard Reed 21 years ago? It was about, a month or two after 9/11, tried to blow up airliners with bombs hidden in their shoes. Do you think we can have we all grown up to the point where we can keep our shoes on that always just struck me as sort of kabuki theater. It was sort of like performative security so we could see that we're doing something. I still do not understand why a generation after 9/11, a generation after one guy, one time tried to hide a bomb in his shoe, we all still have to take off our shoes wherever we go. This is internationalized. In Ireland over the summer, you have to take off your shoes in international airports. Another text. Dan, the problem with comparing 9/11 to January 6th and why liberals see it as sort of at least close, at least in the same ballpark, is most liberals still think the MAGA crowd killed people on January 6th. That comes up with every liberal I argue with, and they state it as fact. This is another way in which coverage and the selection bias of news coverage really influences and shapes perspective and narrative. The initial reporting on Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick was that he was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher. Remember? Sicknick, of course, died of a cerebral hemorrhage a couple of days after the January 6th attack. The autopsy report said nothing about the cause of death. The cause of death was a cerebral hemorrhage. The manner of death was not homicide. And homicide just means you die as the result of an action of somebody else. It doesn't mean like murder. It doesn't mean like first-degree intentional homicide. It's just your death is caused by someone else. The manner of death is homicide. It was not homicide. He had a cerebral hemorrhage. Is it possible that the stress of January 6th played a role in that? Yes, of course. But the only people who died on January 6th were Ashley Babbitt, who was shot through a door in one of the worst officer-involved shootings I think I've ever seen, and also a couple of people who had heart attacks who were part of the quote-unquote MAGA crowd. There wasn't a single Capitol police officer who was killed by rioters, but this has been because of that initial reporting and the fire extinguisher. If you asked 100 liberals, let's do Family Feud here. We asked 100 liberals, was Brian Sicknick hit in the head with a fire extinguisher? I guarantee number one answer on the board is yes. Probably 70% of people still believe that myth, still believe that incorrect report that Sicknick was actually killed. All right. It's been a while, and they try to hide her during campaign seasons. But Kamala Harris is back.
Tell me where in the world is
Kamala Harris. She resurfaced on the Sunday talk shows yesterday, speaking with Chuck Todd on Meet the Press, and Todd was very direct as she was using the occasion of the 9/11 anniversary to, of course, draw the parallel between January 6th and the semi-fascist movement of MAGA Republicans. But Todd, to his credit, actually asked her a difficult question. What is a semi-fascist?
What is a semi-fascist?
Listen, I think that let's not get caught up in politicizing the fact that most people in America know that it is not helpful to our country when we have people who are denying elections or trying to obstruct the outcome of an election where the largest number of people in our country voted for the President of the United States.
In other words, she has no idea what a semi-fascist actually is. What's a semi-fascist, Madam Vice President? Look, Chuck. F. Chuck. Chucky. Charles. Let's not get caught up in what a semi-fascist is or isn't. There are a lot of people who deny elections, so let's take her at her word that someone who denies elections is a semi-fascist. Well, I'm going to take you back to just a couple of weeks after the 2018 midterm. Kamala Harris, in a big speech, not just saying what pretty much every Democrat was saying at the time, that the governorship of Georgia would have gone to Stacey Abrams if not for all that Republican vote rigging, but she actually took it a step further.
And let's say this loud and clear. Without voter suppression, Stacey Abrams would be the governor of Georgia. Andrew Gillum is the governor of Florida.
Oh, really? So Ron DeSantis is an illegitimate governor just like Brian Kemp. And Donald Trump, she said a year later, is an illegitimate president. Speaking on The Breakfast Club, the nation's largest urban radio morning show, Kamala Harris agreed with host Charlemagne the God that Trump was illegitimate.
Elections matter. You know, look, don't Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Okay, hold on. Can we just pause and highlight just how cringe that was, right? She's on an urban radio station. She's like, well, this is what the listeners will like. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Elections matter. When you win an election, you get to set the rules.
How can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's a real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
And then she goes on to talk about how exactly you would fight against all this Russian interference. But she agreed. Charlamagne, you heard him. He said, look, Donald Trump's illegitimate. I agree, Charlamagne. I agree. He's illegitimate. He doesn't win without all of that Russian interference. Now, a far more substantive question. That was a good question by Chuck Todd. I got to give credit where credit is due. I am not going to hate the player or the game in Chuck Todd's interview with Kamala Harris because he did ask her some tough questions. And for Democrats who have been screaming bloody murder all summer about MAGA Republicans and the unique danger they pose to democracy itself, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee has been funding those exact same MAGA Republicans in primaries against even incumbent Republicans who are the supposed good Republicans that Joe Biden was talking about. For example, in Michigan, the DCCC spent more money on television ads than the MAGA Republican in a congressional primary spent total. They actually took out a Republican congressman who voted to impeach Donald Trump. Would that not be the very definition of the sort of Republican that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want? So F. Chuck asked Kamala, hey, if you really believe that these Republicans are so dangerous, why were Democrats funding them?
I'm curious, when you see the Democratic Party and some parts of the party funding ads to promote some of these election deniers in primaries, whether it's Michigan, the high-profile race there, Illinois, Colorado, New Hampshire, it looks like a little bit cynical. And the president went out of his way to say there are good Republicans here. Should you leave the good Republicans alone in a primary? Is the Democratic Party making a mistake here by those people could win if you're not careful?
I mean, listen, I'm not going to tell people how to run their campaigns. I ran in terms of statewide office.
Would you have done this? Would you have done this? Is this something you'd be comfortable with?
I'm not going to tell people how to run their campaigns, Chuck.
In other words, yes, she would have, and yes, this was an organized strategy. Folks, this is beyond anything else, more than anything else, the definitive proof that Democrats don't really believe that Republicans are unique threats to America, yet they say this to whip their voters into a frenzy, and wouldn't you know it, it works. A man from Maryland by the name of Justin Kuchta, 39 years old, has been charged with sending message over the internet threatening to injure and kill Senator Ted Cruz. According to an affidavit, Cruz's district office in Texas reported back in July it received a threatening message via an event management website. The message said, quote, "Thank you for the address. I'm coming to murder all of you Satanist bleepers, especially the chuckle bleep Zodiac killer Cruz. That fat fake bleeper bleep will be the first on the gallows. See all of you bleepers really soon with my fresh militia and weapons. Thanks for the info, bleepers." This, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when you engage in the desperate and despicable campaign strategy of painting your political opponents as unique threats to democracy. It gets the most unhinged members of your base to do things like this, or say, I don't know, to drive across the country and get yourself arrested in Brett Kavanaugh's neighborhood, armed to the teeth, admitting that you traveled all the way over there to assassinate him. Coming up, the unhinged liberal of the day, we check in also with Dave Spano, president and CEO of Annex Wealth Management. Dan O'Donnell here. If you own a business, it's been a bumpy ride from the pandemic to inflation. I'm sure you could use a break. Well, if your business has 5 or more employees and managed to survive COVID, you could be eligible to receive a payroll tax rebate of up to $26,000 per employee. This isn't a loan. There's no payback. It's a refund of your taxes, but the challenge is getting your hands on it. How do you cut through the red tape and get your business the refund it deserves? Go to getrefunds.com. Their team of tax attorneys they've put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program and have already returned $1 billion to businesses. They can help you too. They do all the work with no charge up front and simply share a percentage of the cash that they get for you. Businesses of all types can qualify. To find out if your business does, just go to getrefunds.com. Click on Qualify Me and answer a few questions. Go to getrefunds.com.
It was during a 10, 12-inch snowstorm, and we probably shouldn't have been delivering, but we were delivering.
Ben and Arvid Huth, brothers and owners of Penny Mustard Furnishings.
And they get to the end of the driveway, and it's a long driveway, like a quarter mile long, and it has been plowed. And the UPS guy was stuck halfway between them and the house.
You can't see the house from the road.
They can't pass this UPS guy with their truck. They're going to get stuck. So,
and what would have 99 out of 100 people done? And skip that delivery and call a customer and say, I can't deliver.
Yeah.
Not these guys.
Yeah. The driveway wasn't plowed.
Who were the guys? What were the guys' names?
It was Sam and Max.
Sam and Max.
Yeah. So what they did was they carried that table a quarter mile to the house, delivered it
through 10 inches of snow,
and then carried the old table, customer's old table, a quarter mile back to the truck.
That is just doing whatever it takes to get it done.
Yep.
As much as that's customer service, because the customer was happy that it was done, that's just service to us. That's service to all the other employees that we just bucked up and got the extra work done.
Yep.
See more at pennymustard.com.
The Difference, a new and informative podcast series presented by Annex Wealth Management. Conversation and informed opinion with WISN's Dan O'Donnell and Dave Spotto of Annex Wealth Management. The Difference, available on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you find your favorite podcast.
I know. When you think about inflation, your stomach feels like it had day-old sushi from the corner convenience store. So let Team Austin put a soothing coating of confidence in there. Eric Smith here from Austin Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The best way to avoid buying a new furnace, AC, or water heater? Take care of what you got now. My plumbing technicians don't just fix problems you already have. They know problem spots to look for. Raggedy hoses, stubborn spigots, crusty, rusty water heaters, those kinds of things. And then they'll advise you on what to do next. Same deal with Team Austin's Heating and Air Gurus. They'll make sure you have all the information you need to make the best decision. One that will satisfy you and your budget. Because why replace something sooner than you have to? Austin Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Home of comprehensive care for your plumbing, heating, and air. Online at teamaustin.com.
Get the inside scoop on all things home improvement. Don't miss I Know a Girl Radio, hosted by Milwaukee's own Abby of Abby Windows and Exteriors. Listen in every Sunday at 11 a.m. only on News Talk 1130 WISN.
That's the sound of a Milwaukee fish fry from a recipe that's been passed down for generations. It's no surprise customers keep coming back for more. So much more that this local restaurant needed to supersize supper, and quick. That's where Port Washington State Bank came in. The local family-owned choice for business loans understands small business because they are one. Need to expand? PWSB, Neighborly Business Loans. www.pwsb.bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
At EasyCater, food for work is our thing. Maybe that's why we get orders from 93% of Fortune 500 companies. So what's up with the other 7%?
Everyone, meet our newest employee, Susan. She has an idea that is going to revolutionize our food ordering.
Hi, Susan. So nice to meet you.
Unfortunately, she just gave her notice, and today is her last day.
I'm gonna miss her. Why don't all companies order through EasyCater? Who knows? Order 24/7 from over 95,000 restaurants on EasyCater.com. EasyCater, food for work. It's our thing.
Dan O'Donnell here for the Fairways of Woodside, a fun, relaxing place to play golf and one of the absolute best courses you'll find anywhere. I love it because far from the stuffy, uptight atmosphere you'll find at other courses, the Fairways puts the emphasis on fun, enjoyment of the game with friends. So come out and escape for a round on their beautiful, perfectly manicured course. Book your tee time today at fairwaysofwoodside.com, and I'll see you on the fairways. Coming up in just a second, we get a little preview of tomorrow's inflation index reading. But first, it's time to name the unhinged liberal of the day.
Make me crazy.
Trump is Hitler.
We are in pre-Nazi Germany. Make me crazy.
All white people are racist.
Does that make me crazy?
Trump is dangerous because he's evil. America is in over.
Look, it would be easy to give the unhinged liberal of the day today to any number of liberals on 9/11's 21st anniversary, comparing the terror attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people to January 6th and the hijackers from 21 years ago to Republicans today. That would be easy, but I want to highlight the great work Project Veritas is doing. It's released a fourth video in its education series, this time highlighting a teacher in New York City who teaches middle school students. Her name is Ariane Franco, who is recorded admitting that she advises teenagers to engage in violence against those who stand in the way of her political agenda. She's caught on hidden camera saying, "This is what I told my students. I was like, guys, there's strategic ways to protest. I brought up a crazy organization that has done this. Like, they chose which places to throw bricks in. They chose, and they didn't do it in their own neighborhood. They didn't do it in black and brown communities. Doing it to our own community does not make sense. You got to go after the people who it's not directly affecting. Throw the brick at people that are actually doing the things that need to change." Ariane Franco, teaching students in New York to be terrorists. Your unhinged liberal of the day. We bring in Dave Spano, the president and CEO of Annex Wealth Management. And Dave, big number released tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. The August CPI report, and there will be some bricks thrown when that report comes out. Dan, economists are thinking that the headline number is 8.1%. Obviously, that's more than zero of inflation, right? So that's the headline number. The core number strips out, the volatile things like food and energy. But this is all leading up to the Fed meeting on 9/20 and September 20 and September 21. So it is a big number. It's probably going to be a data point that the Fed will talk about when they talk about their interest rate raises later this month. And it is so important, Daniel. I've been doing this now almost 37 years. And, going from quantitative easing, which is all of this money that has been injected into our economy, trillions of dollars, to quantitative tightening is one of the most significant things that I've seen in my career. Now you're going to try to pull trillions of dollars out of the economy, and that's going to be difficult. And it's going to be difficult on those companies especially that don't make money. So there are places that you can invest. There's places that are doing well. Then take advantage of inflation in your portfolio. Ideas would be energy, and we saw some numbers from retailers like Walmart and Dick's. There are places in your portfolio that you can do well in environments like this. I suggest that you go through the process. Go to our website, to go down to the Know the Difference checklist and know the difference between financial advisors. On our team, our CPAs, estate planning attorneys, PhDs, compare that to the team that you have.
You can do that at annexwealth.com. Dave Spano, president and CEO of Annex. A reminder, Dave and I host a weekly podcast called The Difference. We'll be recording it right after the Dan O'Donnell Show this morning. And you can, of course, download it at iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcast. But I'm a company man. Download it, listen to it each and every week on your iHeartRadio app. Coming up, the accession of a new king, something that is never before seen on television. For liberals, an excuse to bemoan the lack of wokeness. Stay tuned.
News that's factual, fair, and balanced. This is continuing coverage on News Talk 1130 WISN, Milwaukee.
Rain, go away. Good morning, I'm Terry Bell on News Talk 1130 WISN. More than 6,000 people were still without power in the WISN listening area within the last hour after heavy rain soaked southeast Wisconsin overnight. A flood watch is in effect for most of the area until early this afternoon. The rain will taper off later today and tonight. Rain totals will likely range anywhere from 3 to 9 inches or more. In the meantime, everyone is urged to be especially careful around water for the next couple of days.
Any additional rain at this point is going straight to runoff, straight into the deep tunnel, straight into the area, rivers and streams. The retention ponds are overflowing. Stay away from any form of water, body of water, rivers, streams, creeks. They're all going to be running very high, very dangerous for the next couple of days. All of it still has to run through the water system and on into those. So you're going to have to want to stay away from those spots and keep the pets away from them too for a while yet.
Fox 6 weather expert Rob Haswell reporting. Former President Donald Trump and the Justice Department respond today to proposed special master candidates in the review of documents seized from Mar-a-Lago. The DOJ wants retired federal judges Barbara Jones and Thomas Griffith. Trump's team wants former federal judges Raymond Dearie and Paul Huck Jr. King Charles addresses the British Parliament for the first time as monarch today.
As I stand before you today, I cannot help but feel the weight of history which surrounds us.
Queen Elizabeth's funeral is a week from today. Checking the Drake and Associates Sports scoreboard, the Denver Broncos and quarterback Russell Wilson take on his old team, the Seattle Seahawks, tonight. From the Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin News Center, I'm Terry Bell.
The news is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
Hey, it's Dan O'Donnell for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Now is a great time to take advantage of Pella's wide range of beautiful wood designs that can be painted, stained, or unfinished to complement any decor. So maybe you have a room with white walls. Pella's expert installers will match it with the wood around the windows in that room, stain others to match the wood tones in another area of the house, and all with the superior craftsmanship that leaves no hassle or mess. Just perfect results that stand the test of time, and they have the best wood warranty in the industry to prove it. I mentioned it's a great time to take advantage because Pella is currently offering this incredible special. Put no money down, make no payments, and be charged 0 interest for up to 24 months. You can't beat that, so get started today at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Visit them at their beautiful showroom in Brookfield and online at PellaWI.com.
Here's the Bryant Heating and Cooling forecast from the Fox 6 weather experts.
The rain continues today with a flood warning in effect for parts of Milwaukee, Racine, and Waukesha counties with a flood watch outside of those areas. Tapering off later on this evening and overnight tonight. In the meantime, please take care. High today near 66. I'm Fox 6 Chief Meteorologist Rob Haswell.
This report is sponsored by LP SmartSide Trim and Siding. Visit lpcorp.com/pro. Are you looking for siding that is a cut above the rest? LP SmartSide Trim and Siding helps you efficiently install more siding in less time. Side with advanced durability. Side with LP SmartSide Trim and Siding. Visit lpcorp.com/pro to learn more.
You may think at first that the Norwegian forest cat is just another fluffy feline, but its coat is windproof and waterproof. You might also think that just being able to fix furnaces and ACs will get you a gig anywhere. But just like the Norwegian forest cat, Team Austin is a bit of a different breed. Hey there, I'm Eric Smith with Austin Plumbing, Heating and Air, where we're excited to add another furnace and AC guru to our team. But not just anyone. We need a good fit within our team. A bunch of hardworking, dedicated, family-focused, drama-free people with positive attitudes. You'll learn and grow how to be something more than a technician, a heating and air guru. Average length of employment here is over 11 years. That doesn't happen by accident on either party. If you want to find out what our secret sauce is here at Team Austin, what makes us a different breed of cat, I invite you to apply. Drag and drop your resume to us online. All inquiries are strictly between us. That website is teamaustin.com.
During this interruption, let's talk about disruption, emerging new channels, cookieless media,
Marketers, are you missing out on one of the most engaged audiences in today's new open web? With Viant's programmatic software Adelphic, stay in tune with digital audio, stream the future on CTV, and level up with in-game so you can see an average 3 times return on ad spend, maybe even on this very program next time. Viant, built for the new open web. Built for now. Visit ViantNow.com to learn more.
Our roots are firmly grounded in military soil, and because of that, we run to the problems, not away from them. You want a company with integrity? Choose Semper Fi.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry. Semper Fi.
These are the matchups you circle on your calendar. Be there for one of the season's biggest series, Brewers, Yankees. 3 games starting Friday, September 16th, featuring Cerveceros Night on Saturday the 17th. Get your seats now at Brewers.com.
Snoring, sleep apnea, allergies. Dan O'Donnell here for Sinus and Snoring MD. We both know you're tired of sleeping on that couch. Choose the local ENT experts that'll treat you like family, unlike those big box clinics. Visit sinusandsnoringmd.com.
So many streaming options, yet we end up watching repeats of our favorite show again instead of something new. We do that because it's comfortable. Same for financial advice. We do what makes us feel comfortable, even if that means we do nothing. At Annex Wealth Management, we understand during times like this, it's tempting to do nothing. It's time to change the channel. Take a look at where you're at and where you're headed. AnnexWealth.com. Know the difference and work with a fee-only fiduciary. Annex Wealth Management.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/trial. That's ZipRecruiter.com/trial.
The Packers and Bears renew their legendary rivalry Sunday night at Lambeau.
It's the same thing. Aaron Rodgers is the boogeyman, and I fully expect him to be there when I die.
On Milwaukee's home for the Packers, 97-3 The Game.
During the news break, I was watching some of the footage that our news partners at Fox 6 have of the flooding. There's a golf course in Wauwatosa. What course was that, Dave? Do you know? He had Fox News on. I changed it to Fox 6 so I could watch some of the coverage of the flooding. It is bad. It looks like a pond, but it's a golf course. Some of the updated rain totals from yesterday into today, as the rain has largely moved out of our area. Racine, 9.76 inches. Waukesha, 7.48 inches. New Berlin, 7.1 inches. Franklin, 6.9 inches of rain in a day. Man. Just incredible. 414-799-1130 is our AccuNet Mortgage talk and text line. You can also reach the show toll-free, 1-800-838-9476. Email me, dod@iheartmedia.com. Watch the show streaming live, facebook.com/Dan O'Donnell Show. At Dan O'Donnell Show on Twitter. We're also on YouTube. Just search up Dan O'Donnell Show. If there was one quote that sort of summed up yesterday's Packers game, it came from Justin Jefferson, who was so wide open on a 64-yard catch that set up a field goal in the second quarter. There was not a defender within at least 10 yards of him. Now, this isn't some third-string scrub. This is arguably the best receiver in the NFL, Justin Jefferson. Here's what he said. I was thinking somebody was about to come from behind and tackle me. I thought Jair Alexander had run with me, but he wasn't there. It kind of shook me up a little bit. I'm glad I got into the end zone. He was talking about a touchdown catch there. No one within 10 yards on a 64-yard bomb. 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. And, of course, I think I was playing against him in 2 different fantasy leagues. But no worries. For the first time ever playing fantasy football. I've been playing fantasy football for 21 years. 2001, and even before that. We do Yahoo Sports, Yahoo Fantasy Football, and you can actually look back at your record through the years. The one thing that people still use Yahoo for, as opposed to Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or something like that, is fantasy football. And I was actually one of those nerdy kids who in like the mid-1990s would do a fantasy league with my brother and a couple of friends, and I would actually be there with the newspaper every Monday and Tuesday morning adding up stats from the box scores to do our fantasy football league. But this is the first time ever, I do multiple leagues a year. The first time I have ever had Aaron Rodgers in any fantasy football league, because people would always take him way too early because, you know, he's Aaron Rodgers. Now, turns out I'm this sucker. You should take him early because he got, 4 MVP awards. And I take him the year that it looks like the Packers offense is terrible. I know. Same thing happened last year. The New Orleans Saints game was an absolute laughable blowout. And the Packers turn around. They're a playoff team again. They win the division again. The offense is lacking that punch. The offensive line is beat up. The defense just looks completely toothless. And when you allow the best receiver in the NFL to be that wide open, I've got serious questions about scheme. Packers lose 23-7. Also Sunday, Aaron Rodgers' new podcast from Bill Maher on his Club Random podcast is continuing his turn to the dark side, and folks, it is glorious. He says of his home state of California, it's going to bleep, but I'm hanging on. I grew up in a small town. Very few COVID-19 cases up in Chico, California, but all the small businesses bleeping gone. Business capacity limits, other restrictions in place from March 2020 until June 2021, leading to an estimated 40,000 businesses in California collapsing, more than any other state by far. Now, California is the biggest state, but it had by far the most small businesses and medium-sized businesses collapse because of the heavy burden of the COVID-19 lockdowns. And you might recall, I'm convinced, folks, the thing that first red-pilled Aaron Rodgers was businesses being shut down in the earliest days of the pandemic. Do you remember what he did? He announced it with, I think, Barstool Sports within the first couple of weeks, maybe month or two of the pandemic, spring, summer 2020. He opened up a fund and actually pledged, I think it was $1 million or so of his own money to businesses that were shut down because of COVID-19. He was talking openly about this is unfair, this is totally unfair. And then, of course, we got into the vaccinated, immunized debate at the outset of last football season. Was that the 2020 season, or was that last year where he actually had to miss a game because he wasn't vaccinated but immunized? It was last year, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was the Chiefs game. We did break this story here. That's right. It happened to be announced right when we were on the air. That's right, and that's how we knew. We put 2 and 2 together. Remember, Dave, and actually this is a credit to my producer, Dave, he had that soundbite of Aaron Rodgers saying he was immunized and notably not saying he was vaccinated within like 5 seconds of us learning that story. Now, Rodgers also said that he disapproved of AB 2098. This is a new California bill heading to the desk of Governor Newsom that could see doctors disciplined for promoting COVID-19 misinformation. And he said he doesn't like this because the idea of quote-unquote misinformation is so broad. It also has some serious First Amendment issues. But Rodgers is always very careful to say he's not a conservative. He is not a conservative, and he used Roe v. Wade as an example, but I want you to listen to what he says tomorrow. He said, I think there's a lot of people that believe you should have your own decision-making on your own medical decisions, right? My thing is, I have an issue with the hypocrisy in society in general, and I know you do as well, but abortion has been a hot topic, right? And especially after Roe v. Wade got overturned and sent back to the states or whatever, I don't believe the government should have any control over what we do with our bodies, okay? He says, as much as I might lean more pro-life, I don't want the government to tell me I can't smoke a cigar. I can't have a drink of alcohol. I can't choose my own medical decisions. And if I'm a woman, don't bleeping tell me what to do. He literally said, I'm more pro-life. He is trying so hard because he knows the concept. How quickly do you think those State Farm commercials dry up if he comes out as a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, dare I say, pro-Trump conservative Republican? On Saturday, something happened that has never happened in 1,000 years. 1,000 years. For the first time in British history, the accession, the meeting of the King's Privy Council, in which the King is formally declared the monarch following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, happened. It was an historical moment. I was sort of paying half attention. I was coaching soccer and kind of running around in and out, and I was sort of watching. It's a historic day. A lot of coverage on the news networks. What do you think the focus was for the American news media, as it's been almost totally since Queen Elizabeth II died? Oh, sure, they're covering the historical nature of her reign and what she meant as a historical figure and what happens next with the monarchy and all of this. But they are focused like a laser beam on the British Empire, which hasn't been an empire for several decades now, and its history of colonialism. On CNN on Saturday, anchor Christian Amanpour, noted leftist, said, now is the time we need to talk about Black Lives Matter and reparations.
Conversation right now, even at this moment.
Because different demographics, different people were listening
exactly.
For different reasons.
And look what he said. In the 70 years of her being on the throne, many cultures and many faiths have flourished in these past 7 decades. But there is an ongoing, particularly in the wake of Black Lives Matter, particularly in the protests that erupted all over the world after what happened in Minnesota, here as well, in France, in other parts of these nations that had colonial servants, let's face it. People were in service to this empire. The wealth of this empire was derived on the back of the people of their empire.
On display in the palace.
Right, on display everywhere, and in the crown and everywhere. So what we're saying is that there is the generation of multicultural and diverse Britons who want this answered, who want to see their monarch finally talk about what it means and what, potentially the idea of reparations, definitely justice, right? Justice.
Yes.
And I think Prince Harry, and you know this better than me, Prince William, who's the Prince of Wales and the heir, the next king, he talked about it, having been criticized for a trip that he made in the Caribbean, and again, a colonial legacy, that we must have this discussion and it must be up to those countries, but it also has to be had in this country as well.
It's like they completely forget that Queen Elizabeth presided over the era of decolonization, of self-rule for nation states in the realm, or what are now known as the Commonwealth nations. It's like you can never get any sort of credit for any sort of progress in the minds of liberals like Christian Amanpour. It is only what still needs to be done. And now we need to talk about Black Lives Matter and racism and reparations for slavery. If you thought that was bad, and if you thought that was just sort of shoehorning American politics or liberal nonsense into an historical day, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is my favorite clip of the day. Ali Velshi, who hosts a weekend show on MSNBC, he's up there with Joy Reid. He is like the male Joy Reid in terms of the sheer level of craziness that emanates from his program on a weekly basis. He had on a commentator, Dr. Andrew Roberts, who immediately took issue with Velshi's framing of the British monarchy and British rule and Commonwealth and empire and all of this as fundamentally oppressive and terrible and awful. And Velshi went absolutely ballistic. This runs about a minute and a half, and folks, you have to hear all of it to fully appreciate how wonderful it is.
And joining our conversation now is Dr. Andrew Roberts. He's an MSNBC British historian, the author of many books about the royal family, including The Royal House of Windsor and George III, The Life and Reign of Britain's most misunderstood monarch. Andrew, good to see you. Thank you for being with us this morning or this afternoon in London. Let's discuss this. The idea that there were people, we just had an historian say that there are many people who are queenists. They're not monarchists. They liked her. They're either bored with the institution or think that it needs to change or aren't going to be that into the next king. Give us your evaluation of that.
I think that's wildly overstated, frankly. I think when you look at all the opinion polls, we're about 80 to 85% in favour of having a constitutional monarchy, whoever's on the throne. So I think this is extremely overdone, frankly. Rather, I'm afraid to say, as your introduction was, if we had given so much pain to people throughout history, why was Charles chosen by every single Commonwealth country, many of which are former imperial countries, as the head of the Commonwealth? We abolished slavery.
Hold on a second. Andrew, are you really denying what I just said about British colonialism? Are you really doing that, Andrew? Are you really doing that?
We abolished slavery.
Andrew, this is not a propaganda show. Andrew, I need you to stop. I need you to stop for a second. I need you to stop for a second. Are you really taking issue with the horrors of colonialism, Andrew?
I'm certainly taking issue with your remarks about slavery, which we abolished 32 years before you did, and we didn't have to kill 600,000 people in a civil war over it.
Oh, that was just an elbow from the top rope onto Ali Velshi. My favorite part was him saying, "This is not a propaganda show." What he meant to say is, the only propaganda that will be spewed on my program will come from me. Anything that dares to challenge with facts and logic the almost religious dogma that somehow race permeates every single thing, that somehow the British Empire couldn't possibly have been ever a force for good in the world, that even though these countries were supposedly so oppressed under British rule that every single one, as Dr. Roberts pointed out, affirmed King Charles as the monarch. Pretty much what Roberts was saying was that everything Velshi thought he knew about the monarchy, about the history of colonialism and whatnot, was nonsensical. And like all liberals, he was framing it through a 21st century woke understanding of history, which Roberts was just trying to tell him was ridiculous. It's conservative thought, not just talk, here on The Dan O'Donnell Show.
Reach Dan anytime on the AccuNet Mortgage Talk and Text line at 414-799-1130.
The Dan O'Donnell Show. We'll be right back.
Dan O'Donnell here for my great friends at Mander Collision and Glass, which I've been recommending most highly for years because of their expertise, their professionalism, and above all, their customer service, which really sets them apart from pretty much every other body shop. But don't just take my word for it. Sarah says Mander was thorough, friendly, knowledgeable, and quick. Although you never want to have to use an auto body repair shop, I would absolutely recommend Mander. And whether it's body work, windshield repair, or car detailing, you'll get the same service Sarah got, guaranteed. You see, Mander is locally and family owned, so you're a person to them, not a number like you are to a national chain. And Mander now has 4 locations to serve you in Brookfield, Waukesha, Cedarburg, and Heartland. Start your repair today by visiting mandercollision.com and see why Mander truly is the best decision after a collision.
The Difference, a new and informative podcast series presented by Annex Wealth Management. Conversation and informed opinion with WISN's Dan O'Donnell and Dave Spano of Annex Wealth Management. The Difference, available on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you find your favorite podcast.
Let Tri-County Contracting take care of the outside of your home so you don't have to. Worry-free roofing, siding, and windows from Tri-County Contracting. Call us at 262-679-6100 or visit us online at tricountycontractingwi.com.
These are the matchups you circle on your calendar. Be there for one of the season's biggest series, Brewers, Yankees. 3 games starting Friday, September 16th.
Oh, my goodness! Oh!
Enjoy a marquee series featuring Cerveceros Night on Saturday the 17th, the Brewers' annual celebration of Hispanic and Latino culture, presented by Aurora Healthcare. Get your seats now at brewers.com.
At EasyCater, food for work is our thing. It's literally all we've done for 15 years. Whether you need to feed a meeting or the whole company, we're here to make sure the food is professionally delivered, on time, as ordered, and all within your budget. No wonder we get orders from 93% of Fortune 500 companies. Food for work is what we do, and no one knows it better. Order 24/7 from over 95,000 restaurants on EasyCater.com. EasyCater, food for work. That's our thing.
Identity theft shows no sign of slowing down. In fact, more than $14 billion stolen last year. That's a criminal success story and a wake-up call. It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity. LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. If you become a victim, LifeLock will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft, but everyone can save 25% on their first year of protection with promo code BECK at LifeLock.com. LifeLock.com, promo code BECK.
Men's wedding bands made from whiskey barrels and meteorites.
Welcome to Kessler's.
Now, back to the Dan O'Donnell Show.
Gotta get this story in. The mayor of New Orleans, LaTanya Cantrell, she's been racking up some serious coin for her extravagant travel expenses. And specifically, she insists on flying first class instead of coach or business class. You gotta fly first class. Why? As a black woman, she says, she is not safe sitting in coach. Now, at a press conference recently, she was asked about her first-class travel tickets. My travel accommodations, she responded, are a matter of safety, not of luxury. As the mother of a young child whom I live for, I am going to protect myself by any reasonable means in order to ensure that I am there to see her grow into the strong woman I am raising her to be. Anyone who wants to question how I protect myself just doesn't understand the world black women walk in. There apparently are a whole lot of KKK members in Coach. Yeah, man, the closer you get to the rear of the plane, the bathrooms, it is dangerous for a black woman to be sitting alone. I fear for her safety sitting in a plane, not in first class. Violent weekend in Wisconsin. A shooting injured 2 people at a Racine-Horlick High School football game on Friday night. The athletic trainers actually were deployed to treat a gunshot wound. Fortunately, everyone is expected to be okay. In Milwaukee, we had people killed in hit-and-run crashes. We had a teenager killed. A 16-year-old boy was killed early Sunday morning in a shooting that is still under investigation. He is the 17th child to be killed in a homicide in the city of Milwaukee this year. There have been, since 2020, since the start of 2020, 66 children who have died in homicides, many in gunfire, killed in the city of Milwaukee. 17 kids killed this year. We're more than halfway through the year. I believe 70% of the way through the year. 17 kids killed, right? I went back and took a look at the COVID-19 statistics for Wisconsin. Since we have stopped making daily counts of how many people are infected, how many people are hospitalized, and how many people have died, I wanted to go back and take a look. Do you realize 16 children And for the purposes of COVID data, a child is defined as people aged 0 to 19. That's just how they're grouping in 10-year increments. So we've got to go up to 19 years old, obviously a young adult. There have been 16 people aged 0 to 19 who have died either with or of COVID-19 in the 2.5 years since the pandemic began. There have been 17 children murdered on the streets of Milwaukee just this year. 66 in the same time period that COVID-19, the most dangerous threat to kids. We had to keep MPS, and we had to keep schools closed because of the danger that COVID-19 posed to kids. Gunfire, the streets of Milwaukee are infinitely more dangerous. This is something that is just not slowing down. In fact, the homicide rate in 2022, right now, year to date in the city of Milwaukee, is roughly 30% higher than it was last year when we set the all-time record. 2021 was even deadlier than 2020 when we also set the all-time record. Suffice it to say that in Tony Evers, Wisconsin, in Cavalier Johnson's Milwaukee, just about the most dangerous thing that a child can do is, unfortunately, walking outside. Dan O'Donnell Show will be right back after this.
The Dan O'Donnell Show.
We'll be right back.
Dan O'Donnell here. If you own a business, it's been a bumpy ride from the pandemic to inflation. I'm sure you could use a break. Well, if your business has 5 or more employees and managed to survive COVID, you could be eligible to receive a payroll tax rebate of up to $26,000 per employee. This isn't a loan. There's no payback. It's a refund of your taxes, but the challenge is getting your hands on it. How do you cut through the red tape and get your business the refund it deserves? Go to getrefunds.com. Their team of tax attorneys, they've put together, are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program and have already returned $1 billion to businesses. They can help you too. They do all the work with no charge up front and simply share a percentage of the cash that they get for you. Businesses of all types can qualify. To find out if your business does, just go to getrefunds.com. Click on Qualify Me and answer a few questions. Go to getrefunds.com.
For more information about contests on News Talk 1130 WISN, go to newstalk1130.com/rules.
Do you ever ask yourself, what's my purpose? Why am I just going through these motions? And when I die, what then?
Franklin Graham.
If you're searching something more in life, the answer is God. You see, God gave his son, Jesus Christ, to die on a cross for our sins and pay the penalty for our sins. Then God raised Jesus to life on the 3rd day. And if you'll trust your life to Jesus, he'll forgive your sins and give meaning to your life now and eternal life after you die. You can pray with me right now. Just say this prayer. God, I'm a sinner. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I believe that Jesus is your son. I want to trust him as my Savior. I'm willing to follow him as my Lord for the rest of my life. Amen.
Someone's ready to talk with you right now about beginning a relationship with Jesus. Call the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association prayer line. The number is 855-255-PRAY. That's 855-255-PRAY.
Today's Dan O'Donnell program is brought to you by Great Midwest Bank. Whether you're ready to buy, build, or renovate, Great West Bank takes the stress out of paying for it. Get started today at greatmidwestbank.com.
The beginning of the fall can be a new beginning for you if you're suffering from joint pain. Hey, it's Benjamin Yop. I want you to call QC Kinetics right now. You've put it off long enough. Time to get real, lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulder, hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments. No drugs, no downtime, no surgery. Regenerative medicine uses highly concentrated healing properties from your own body to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting groundbreaking, breakthrough, natural approach to eliminating joint pain. Lots of people here have done this, and they're living their life to the fullest, pain-free. Don't assume the old ways of dealing with joint pain are the only ways. Call QC Kinetics today. Stop putting it off. Call for a free consultation. 414-285-3474. 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474.
Welcome back to Ask Hassleus. I'm Weston. What's your question?
What if I want something extra with my Hassleus mattress?
Through Monday, get a free box spring with your new Beauty Rest or Sealy Posturepedic mattress.
But what if I don't want a box spring?
Then take the equal value off an adjustable base.
But what if I want to try out the mattress first?
Visit an employee-free Hassleus showroom where you can try and buy with no pushy sales guy.
But what if I want to talk to someone?
Call the Hassleus hotline for answers to all your questions.
But what if I don't want to spend a lot?
Employee-free showrooms save you money. Our 35 beds from the top 5 brands start at $393. Free next-day delivery, too.
But what if I forgot my first question?
I'll remind you to get a free box spring or equal value off an adjustable base with your new Sealy Posturepedic or Beauty Rest mattress. Now through Monday at Hassleus Mattress. Find a showroom near you or shop online at hassleus.com.
Hey, it's Dan O'Donnell for Alliance Tax Resolution Firm. Are you struggling under the weight of state and federal tax debt? If your answer is yes, please know that you're not alone. 1 in 40 Americans struggles with tax debt. 1 in 40. But at Alliance Tax Resolution Firm, they're in your corner. They understand that this can be a difficult problem to navigate, but they'll show you the way to relief. If you have more than $25,000 in tax debt, their tax attorneys and CPAs are ready to relieve your stress because they know resolution is possible. Call Alliance Tax Resolution Firm today to start on the path of a better future tomorrow. The first consultation with their experts is always free, and they'll work directly with the IRS and state on your behalf to find a solution, and they guarantee there's no tax problem they can't solve. Call 262-786-4442 or go to AllianceTaxUSA.com.
Are you tired of being tired? Go to AdventKnows.com.
Get the inside scoop on all things home improvement. Don't miss I Know a Girl Radio, hosted by Milwaukee's own Abby of Abby Windows and Exteriors. Listen in every Sunday at 11 a.m. only on News Talk 1130 WISN.
iHeartRadio is the easy-to-use app for music and radio. Download the free iHeartRadio app today.
Did you know Donald Trump is back in Washington, D.C.? Trump is back in D.C. This was the huge headline. Social media set ablaze. What could he be doing? He didn't announce anything on Truth Social. Did you know he was seen at Dulles International Airport, getting off of his private plane? He was in his golf gear. He was in his golf gear, Dave. This from the Newsweek account of this. The surprise visit has resulted in a range of theories being shared online. Some have suggested that Trump may be in D.C. because he is due to be arrested by the Department of Justice, or that he may be visiting the Walter Reed Hospital for health reasons. Or, he could be playing golf. Speculation, though, still at a fever pitch today. The Daily Beast this morning. Donald Trump still in golf shoes, flies unannounced back into D.C. But why? What would Donald Trump be doing flying into D.C.'s Dulles Airport on Sunday night, still in his golf shoes? The former president's unannounced and deliberately low-key return to the nation's capital was captured by YouTuber Andrew Layden and set off a flurry of social media speculation that Trump, accused of stealing classified documents on his departure from office, was arriving to answer some kind of indictment. Trump in Washington, Project Lincoln co-founder Rick Wilson tweeted, 1,000 rumors rumble. No earthquake quite yet. Then the final line of this little blurb of a story. It's possible, of course, that Trump has come to play around at his Virginia golf course, although the weather forecast for Monday is for rain. This is how hysterical the news media is involving Donald Trump, folks. Never forget that. And never forget that all of this is deliberate to take your mind and your attention off of the issues that really actually matter, i.e. inflation. As Dave Spano, the president and CEO of Annex Wealth Management, told us last hour, the consensus is that we're going to see 8.1% year-over-year inflation when the Consumer Price Index report is released tomorrow morning. We'll, of course, have complete coverage here on the Dan O'Donnell Show. What that is going to be, that's going to be the signal to the media that inflation is slowing down. It's slowing down. It's not even a problem anymore. Why do we even need to cover inflation or people struggling? It's a big story, I think, on, was it CBS 58? It was one of the local stations. I apologize. Actually, a very, very interesting look at people who are unretiring. Now, this was sort of incomplete because it focused on people, well, I'm coming back to work as a school bus driver because I just really enjoy it. I'm looking for something to do. And that's a lot. There's a reason why a lot of retirees come out of retirement. They'll, be a Walmart greeter or something like that for a couple of extra bucks. A lot of people are coming out of retirement, though, because they can no longer on fixed incomes afford things, because of the way that Biden and his fellow Democrats have destroyed the nation's economy. But you haven't heard anything about that. It's actually remarkable how inflation disappeared as a story almost the second that the Trump raid happened. And it was starting to wane. We were sort of covering this over the course of the summer. And I believe, we've got to find the audio, that I made a prediction at some point, I think it was in May or June, that the media would just stop talking about inflation, because inflation in the economy, that's the thing that's going to doom Democrats. And that's the reason that Joe Biden's approval ratings haven't really moved. There's also a story out today in the New York Times. I don't think we're going to have time to get to it. We'll, of course, cover it tomorrow, because it's the question is, are pollsters missing the exact same electorate? Are they missing the exact same voters that they missed in 2020? Remember, Biden was up in some of these polls as late as October, 10 points on Donald Trump nationally. Biden is going to win just an absolute electoral college landslide. The race was much closer in every single state. In every single swing state, it was a couple thousand votes that Biden beat Trump by. And there's a very, very good article in the New York Times that says it sure looks like pollsters are missing the same electorate that they missed in 2020. They also missed in 2016. And to an extent, while the polling was better in 2018, it still was not especially good. And the question is, are polls this far out simply underestimating Republican turnout? Are they underestimating how many Republicans are actually going to swarm the polls in November? And it's absolutely worth reading. But I've got to get to this. In her interview with Chuck Todd over on NBC's Meet the Press yesterday, Chuck asked Vice President Kamala Harris if the border was secure.
Would you call the border secure?
I think that there is no question that we have to do what the president and I asked Congress to do. Is the first request we made: pass a bill to create a pathway to citizenship. The border is secure, but we also have a broken immigration system, in particular over the last 4 years before we came in, and it needs to be fixed.
Oh, really? Because it seems like the border was fixed. Fiscal year to date 2022, that October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. So the past fiscal year, which is got just a couple of days left, there were 1.8 million total Border Patrol encounters. 1.8 million. Fiscal year 2018, President Donald Trump's first fiscal year in office in charge of border policy. 404,000 encounters. That number spiked in fiscal year 19 to 859,000. That is still much less than half of what it has been in the first 2 fiscal years under Joe Biden. By the way, it dipped all the way down back to 405,000 in fiscal year 2020, but that, of course, included the COVID-19, where illegal immigration essentially stopped because of Title 42. Title 42 is gone now. And under Joe Biden, there have been nearly 4.9 million illegal immigrants who have crossed America's southern border, including 3.9 million reported by the Border Patrol. That includes 3.4 million at the southwest border, as well as approximately 900,000 gotaways who have entered the country undetected. In July alone, there were 199,976 encounters at the southwest border. 134,000 of those single adults. That is a 325% increase from the average number of July apprehensions under President Trump. The Border Patrol, in just the first 10 months, and the most recent numbers we have are from July, the first 10 months of fiscal year 2022, there have been more illegal immigrant encounters than in the entirety of fiscal year 2021. July was the 17th straight month with more than 150,000 encounters. In other words, almost the entirety of the Biden administration. The border is not secure. The border is anything but secure. This is a crisis when even Democrat mayors in New York, in Washington, D.C., where Muriel Bowser, the mayor there, actually declared a state of emergency because of a couple of busloads of illegal immigrants being shipped into her city by Texas's governor. And the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, who we documented last week, was saying, oh, yes, Chicago is a sanctuary city. Yes, yes, yes. And then under cover of darkness, she takes busloads of illegals that are sent to Chicago and sends them to the suburbs without any sort of warning or anything like that. It's not enough to just call attention to the hypocrisy of these sanctuary city leaders and sanctuary city Democrats, but it is to also point out that this is yet another crisis of the Biden administration's own making that has just gone completely uncovered. It's gone completely unremarked upon for, 15 months now. We had the border surge right when Biden was first in office, March, April of 2021, and then the story just sort of disappeared. People just sort of assumed, well, things must have gotten better. To the contrary, they've gotten worse. And we were told at the time, a year and a half ago, that, well, the border, it's cyclical. People don't usually come in the southern months because it's just too hot. It's too hot at the southern border. You can't come in the summer. It's dangerous. Well, guess what? For the first time practically ever, border crossings increased in the summer of 2021, and they've increased again in the summer of 2022. People are coming in precisely because of what Kamala Harris was talking about, the promise of a pathway to citizenship, the promise of mass amnesty, and the fact that there is utterly nothing the Border Patrol, which is so overwhelmed, can do. By the way, there are tons and tons and tons of fentanyl and opiates that are killing Americans because the Border Patrol is so focused on dealing with all of the people and processing all of the people who are swarming the overwhelmed facilities that they can't do the actual enforcement that they need to do. As a result, the cartels essentially run the border. This is a story that has been ignored. Again, getting back to the beginning of the show, I talk about the most insidious form of media bias, selection bias, because this, like inflation, were it covered, would cause people to say, hey, what are we doing here? Why are Democrats who are in charge of protecting the border? And this is a humanitarian crisis, folks. People are dying trying to cross this border because they think that they'll be able to have American citizenship someday. They'll be able to get the benefits. They've been telling people who are interviewing them they're coming because they think Joe Biden is much better than Donald Trump, and this is a golden opportunity to come to the United States. If this story would be covered, what do you think that would do to voters' perceptions of Democrats who are in power? We get sort of drips and drops every time a Democrat mayor says, oh, the wicked Republicans, they're playing politics by sending busloads of immigrants. Yes, to some extent that is true, but they're drawing attention to the fact that border towns across their states are overwhelmed, while Democrats don't have to worry about the daily problems that unchecked, vast illegal immigration is causing. This is a major issue and a major problem, and that's the reason that the media has refused, like with inflation, to cover it, because doing so would devastate Democrat chances in the midterms.
If years of watching football has provided you with piercing insight on what separates winners from losers, then the Mark Belling Football Contest is your gridiron cup of tea. Every Thursday, a contestant will pick a game against a spread or the over-under number. Winners get to spike the bowl of football brilliance while also snaring a $100 cash card.
The Mark Belling Football Contest is presented by Holiday Automotive in Fond du Lac. Holiday Automotive, it's worth the trip. HolidayAutomotive.com.
Jay here for the Coal Investment Group, the retirement specialists. Do you know higher interest rates can affect the amount of money that you'll receive from your pension? It could mean a smaller lump sum payout. Interest rates go up, lump sums go down. You've worked a lifetime to build your retirement fund, and I think it goes without saying that you want to get the most out of it. So don't waste time. Explore your options with Coal Investment Group today. If you have a pension and you're considering retiring with a lump sum this year or next, your decision is urgent and you'll want to talk to an experienced team. Coal Investment Group has been in the retirement planning business for 35 years. Their team has developed and refined a process that allows them to put the retirement puzzle together in a way that works for you. An initial consultation with their fiduciary advisors will help give you more insight. Don't wait. Call Coal Investment Group for your retirement pension options today at 262-522-4040. That's 262-522-4040, or visit them online at thecoalway.com. That's K-O-W-A-L, thecoalway.com.
If you're looking for the finest of furniture finishing and heirloom restoration, by golly, it's Mullally. Mullally Furniture Finishing and Repair. Serving everywhere. Quality counts. MULLALY finishing.com.
Repairing sunken or uneven concrete can be easy, clean, and half the price of replacing your concrete. Contact Raise Right to fix your trip hazards, driveway, sidewalk, pool deck, and more. Concrete lifting holes are small and nearly invisible. Go to WeRaiseConcrete.com. Raise Right, the #1 concrete lifting, foundation repair, and waterproofing team for Wisconsin homeowners. WeRaiseConcrete.com. That's WeRaiseConcrete.com.
These are the matchups you circle on your calendar. Be there for one of the season's biggest series. Brewers, Yankees. 3 games starting Friday, September 16th.
Oh, my goodness! Oh!
Enjoy a marquee series featuring Cerveceros Night on Saturday the 17th. The Brewers' annual celebration of Hispanic and Latino culture. Presented by Aurora Healthcare. Get your seats now at Brewers.com.
The Difference, a new and informative podcast series presented by Annex Wealth Management. Conversation and informed opinion with WISN's Dan O'Donnell and Dave Spano of Annex Wealth Management. The Difference, available on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you find your favorite podcast.
Brad Youngbluth here from Semper Fi Roofing and Exteriors, your local, veteran-owned and operated exterior remodeling company. Our success is directly related to our ability to overcome challenges. Our roots are firmly grounded in military soil, and because of that, we run to the problems, not away from them. Because we have honor and integrity, we're not going to tell you that nothing will go wrong. But if something does, you can rest assured that we won't back down from the challenge. It sounds simple, but it's not easy to execute, and we do. Day in and day out, we live our principles. It's who we are. We're good at what we do, and we love doing it. Our contributions to society can be seen all over southeastern Wisconsin. Old homes made new again. That's our impact and the source of our drive. If you find yourself interested in a new roof, siding, windows and doors, or masonry work, give us a call because you can always count on Semper Fi to keep you safe, warm, and dry.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry, Semper Fi.
What if I told you your home movies are already past their prime? It's true. The magnetic tape used in VHS and camcorder tapes only lasts between 10 to 20 years, which means your baby's first steps, weddings, and family vacations are fading away as we speak. Digitizing your old media with Legacy Box stops this fading process in its tracks. And by preserving your recordings, they're safe forever. Legacy Box is simply the best way to preserve your past, which is why they've been trusted by over 1 million families. Your memories are meant to be shared, not chewed up by the VCR or worn away with time. For a limited time, you can convert your tapes to digital for just $9 a tape. There's never been a better time to convert your entire collection. That includes film reels and photos too. Visit legacybox.com/now to get our $9 sale. That's legacybox.com/now to unlock our $9 offer. legacybox.com/now.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Classical conservatism, contemporary style here on the Dan O'Donnell Show. Visa announced over the weekend that it is going to join MasterCard and American Express in categorizing purchases of firearms separately than other merchandise. It said it would apply the International Organization for Standardization's new merchant code to gun shop sales. That was announced on Friday. Gun store sales were previously labeled as general merchandise. Gun control advocates have wanted this move for a long time. They argue that a separate category for gun store sales will help track suspicious quantities of firearm sales that could potentially lead to a mass shooting. But gun rights advocates have said that categorizing gun shop sales would be unfair to the industry, given that most firearm sales do not result in mass shootings. That story from the Associated Press. Most, 99.999999999. I could keep going for the rest of the show just with nines. This is obviously an attempt to track who is purchasing firearms. It has nothing to do with the example that was given that the Pulse nightclub gunman bought something like $20,000 worth of guns in the weeks before he went on his killing rampage that at the time was the deadliest attack in American history. And obviously, do you remember that one, by the way? Summer of 2016. Remember what the initial reports were? It was at a gay nightclub. Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah, it was even back then. Donald Trump, far-right Republicans had been radicalized. They're taking their hate. No, it was an ISIS sympathizer. Meanwhile, this to me is fascinating. The largest and most comprehensive survey of American gun owners ever conducted suggests that there are 1.7 million defensive uses of firearms per year. The online survey was conducted by Sentiment in February and March of last year. It was based on a representative sample of about 54,000 adults, 16,000 of whom are gun owners. It was conducted by Georgetown University's political economist William English, who has released the results of the survey as part of a book project. He says the overall adult gun ownership rate that he found, 32%. That's consistent with recent research by Gallup and the Pew Research Center. 32% of Americans, give or take, own a gun. The survey results indicate that Americans own roughly 415 million firearms. That, too, is consistent with other research. 31% of the gun owners had said they used a firearm to defend themselves or their property, often on multiple occasions. Now, the 1.7 million number doesn't just mean when guns are discharged or even pulled out. Oftentimes, a defensive gun use can simply be someone comes up and says, give me all your money, and said, I've got a gun. And the person runs off. Now, because this is, self-identified defensive gun uses, it is possible that people overestimate. There would be that bias to say, oh, yes, I've used my gun multiple times. Because, it makes you sound tougher, it makes you sound cooler, whatever it is. So there is the possibility that gun owners are lying about this. But this is in line with research that was conducted over the past several decades that does tend to suggest that defensive uses of firearms, if not eclipse the number of crimes that are committed with guns each year, it's at least somewhere in the same neighborhood. In other words, what this means is that there is a place for gun ownership that doesn't involve committing crimes, and that the idea that we need to just get rid of guns altogether and society would be a better, more harmonious place is nonsense. That there are at least several 100,000, I think at the very least, crimes that don't get committed every single year because the would-be victim is armed. Once again, as with what sort of developed as the theme of this program, selection bias in the media to advance a narrative, you never hear about those defensive gun uses because it doesn't fit with the media's narrative. I'll be on Newsmax in about a half hour. Hope to see you then. Otherwise, talk tomorrow on The Dan O'Donnell Show.